Win a Pageant, episode 68.
I created this step-by-step process after training thousands of women across the U.S. to win. Now you can have access to these winning strategies when you join me every Wednesday. Let's win a pageant.
Hey girl, welcome to the Win a Pageant podcast. I'm your coach, Alicia Darby, and today I am saving you from the deer in the headlights look. Yes, thank you. Round of applause is absolutely appropriate. I'm bowing over here. Listen, I know that you know what I'm talking about because you have seen someone else do this, and it is super awkward for the entire audience and for the poor girl who usually doesn't even know that it is happening to her until she gets the photos back and she's like blaming the photographer for catching her in a bad moment, or she gets the DVD back and she realizes that she really had no good moment. Girls who are deers in the headlights do not win pageants. The deer in the headlight phrase describes the pageant girl that walks across the stage and nearly freezes, like a deer that steps out onto the road and freezes and looks at you until they get hit in the headlights, like at full speed ahead, okay? It's awful for everybody, but especially for the woman that doesn't even realize that she's doing it. And I do not want that to be you. So first, let me explain what's going on in the woman's mind when she's just standing there looking absolutely stunning in a gorgeous dress with fabulous hair and makeup, but with giant doe eyes, just frozen in a stiff pose, barely breathing. This happens when a woman is fully aware of her surroundings, but not at all aware of her own existence. This happens from nerves, really. It's like an out-of-body experience. You end up just floating along, blacking out about what your body is doing, and you're so focused on what everyone else is doing and thinking and experiencing. So when you finally walk off stage, you could explain exactly what you saw in the audience, the judges' faces, the kid like picking his nose up front, but you have absolutely no recollection of not breathing, blinking, or even connecting with your audience. Women that have very little experience on stage are, of course, more susceptible to becoming the deer in the pageant headlights because they aren't used to understanding their own body awareness under spotlights when they're being watched, not to mention judged. Women with excellent self-awareness on stage are usually dancers or athletes or singers. They're people who have performed so much that they're unaffected by the change of the dynamic from being in the audience to being in the spotlight. A pageant is just like any stage performance. All of the people in the audience are behaving normally, and the people on the stage are captivating the attention of the audience in an attempt to spark an emotion that entertains and delights. It's truly a form of one-way communication that's not easy for everyone to pull off. When someone who's not used to that level of responsibility of communication is brought onto stage, she could easily freeze under the pressure. But not you. Today, I'm going to teach you how to avoid this. And the best way to cultivate the self-awareness that you need is, of course, through actual stage experience. Take up a dance class where you have to perform in front of your classmates, or join Toastmasters where you can practice giving speeches to a group, or even just spontaneously bust out into song and dance outside the Gap at the mall, okay? Well, maybe not that last one. That could be a little bit extreme. But truly, the best way to experience the spotlight is to jump in. But you know that this episode doesn't just end there. I have a far less vulnerable way to remain aware of your own actions while you're on stage and to communicate with your audience appropriately. Mostly, this is about a mindset shift. You have to recognize that your job on stage is to perform. That means to communicate an emotion and engage a reaction that delights your audience. So to do that, you have to be fully responsible for yourself and know how you want to communicate. That's where my mantra exercise comes in. A mantra is something that you say over and over and over, whether out loud or in your mind, to evoke a reaction. Now, most people use it to evoke a reaction within themselves. You might have heard of it used to do things like stop smoking or stop eating junk food. Like someone, for example, might say, I love healthy food. I love healthy food. I love healthy food over and over and over in an effort to avoid junk food, okay? Some people even start every day with a powerful mantra like, I am wise, I am powerful. Today, I will conquer whatever comes my way. That is typically how you've probably heard of a mantra being used before. I use mantras in pageant competition to evoke an emotion that I want to communicate to my judges and audience. And I'm going to teach you exactly how to do this. For every phase of competition, I consider what emotion I want to evoke in my audience and in myself. So for example, in Evening Gown, I want to evoke a sense of love and grace. I want my audience to say, oh, she was just so lovely and gracious. Knowing what I want them to say, I can create what I want to communicate to get that reaction. Okay, so do you follow? Remember I said it's a one-way communication. You're really communicating out, but you already can be aware of what you want them to experience. So I would want to communicate something like this. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. And their response, of course, would feel something like, wow, she's so lovely and gracious. Okay, a feeling of love and grace. That's what I'm going after. Let me give you another example. For swimsuit, I want the emotion from my judges to be something like, wow, I really want to hang out with her. She looks like she is just absolutely on top of the world. That's what I want them to say. So my mantra might be, I'm having a pool party. You're totally invited. And as I enter stage for each phase of competition, I say my mantra over and over and over and over in my mind in order to perform that phrase to communicate with my audience. Every one of my clients that has done this has said the same thing, that it helps immensely because they're able to relate to the audience and it removes your nerves almost completely because you realize instead of being nervous and feeling judged and stuff, instead your job is to communicate. Now, there are two keys to creating your mantras. First, they have to be authentic to you, something that you would actually say in real life. Secondly, you have to include your audience in some way. Now, I make sure that I say the word you every single time, somehow. So you're totally invited, or thank you for having me. That helps to make sure that you're actually communicating with them and you're not just in like la la land on stage saying, your own things like, oh, I'm so hot, I worked so hard, or something, okay? That's totally different. Your performance has to communicate with others. Communication is absolutely key. When you step onto the stage and you have that responsibility to communicate, to perform to your audience, no longer will you be stuck in your own mind worrying about what are they thinking or what are they saying about me, who's whispering, who's laughing, who just shouted. When your mind is on all of those other things in your environment, the external environment, you lose your own self-awareness. Your goal with the mantras is to keep awareness of yourself, that you are in fact portraying those mantras. So when I say, thank you so much for having me, it's an honor to be here, I want to physically present that to my audience. Of course, I'm not saying that out loud, obviously, right? You're saying that to yourself in your mind. I'm not even lip syncing it, okay? I'm just feeling that energy and that emotion so that I'm presenting that. Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be here. When I'm able to present that, to communicate it, the way that I show up, I'm very fully aware of what my body's doing. And that is how you avoid the deer in the headlights. And that, my dear, is how you win a pageant. If you are looking for more pageant trainings to help you win, visit winapageant.com. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you on the next Win a Pageant Wednesday.